Hello, everyone. Welcome back to the Enlightenment Hour. I hope this episode finds you in good spirits and generally all good, because you've been good enough to look at the title of this ridiculously named podcast and go, that seems like something I might want to listen to. So, thank you for clicking on this show. For starters, today I am joined by a cup of tea, so please forgive me if I keep taking a sip from that and there is dead air for about 2 or 3 seconds. Hopefully that will be okay, because today I am going to be rambling on about Netflix's Orange is the New Black, following its Season 5 release this past Friday. I have binged the entirety of Season 5, 13 episodes, in less than 36 hours of its release. I'm I'm an avid Orange is the New Black binge watcher, shall we say? And no, this show, the PurpleDon Enlightenment Hour, is not turning into a show about the latest Netflix release, because I know that the last episode we did here was on Master of None, which is a great show in itself. And yes, these shows, this as well as HorrorHouse, of course, will be getting guests back soon. I know there hasn't been a guest on any show, whether you're listening to this on YouTube or on iTunes or whatever, Apple Podcast, whatever that's called these days, or anywhere else you might be able to find the Enlightenment Hour. I know there hasn't been a great deal of guests on recently, but that will certainly be changing next week, and please keep a lookout for, well, actually, why not announce now? There is going to be both an episode of HorrorHouse and of the Enlightenment Hour next weekend for everybody to enjoy. Maybe I might release Saturday and Sunday next week, and very, very big guest on HorrorHouse. Just incredible to talk to, really. I hope I'm not going to tell who it is. If some of you will probably know the name when I do eventually release, which will be at some point later this coming week. But yes, big guest on the next HorrorHouse, and it is Father's Day in the UK next Sunday. That is the 18th of June, and well, that should probably be enough to tell you who the guest is going to be on the next Enlightenment Hour, which should prove to be a very eventful affair. Oh, yes, well, let's take a sip of tea before we start on Orange is the New Black. Okay. Orange is the New Black is, well, I think it was the first Netflix show I ever watched. It was I know it was one of the early original shows. Well, it would be being on its 5th season now. It was definitely the first show I ever binge watched, though. In fact, I think the first 2 seasons were already available when I started on Orange is the New Black. But it quickly became sort of one of those shows that I really, really, really enjoyed. Like, I would put it, I when I first started, at least, would put it up there with, some of the best shows I personally ever watched. That was before I'd watched the likes of Game of Thrones and The Sopranos and various other things of that nature. But yes, it's like season 5 we're on now, and I've got to say, all in all, I very much enjoyed this season of Orange is the New Black. If you want my full overview of the entire show, season 1 and 2, the show's changed, it's strange. Season 1 and 2, it was very much Piper Chapman, played by Taylor Schilling. It was very much her as the central character. It seemed more like a, traditional lead in a show with, a big narrative, but all in all, it all centers around her, right? Which was fine, and that was the case with certainly season 1 and season 2 as well. Although season 2, I remember, had it's like a sort of a prison gang war sort of thing going on, if I remember correctly. Season 3 is where Orange is the New Black really sort of started to fall off. I have a couple of friends around here that also watch this show and were the ones who got me into it, and everyone was in agreement after season 3 came out and said that just wasn't as good. And the reasons that I think a lot of people say that, myself included, is because Piper as a character, or as a lead character at least, became stale, became annoying. It felt like she wasn't needed anymore because this show has such an extensive cast of very, very compelling characters that go like 25 people deep. It's really, really strong, its cast, which is why keeping this notion of a lead character in Piper Chapman didn't really work by season 3. I remember season 3 also, it was introducing even more characters that I don't know, I didn't take to very well. I think they got rid of a couple of those characters. Ruby Rose's character, for instance, I think her name was Stella. I don't know what was going on there. She was gone after after season 3. But the show felt unfocused. It felt like it was just sort of... It felt like it wanted to become what it did become in season 4 and 5. But it wasn't quite there yet, and it was still clinging on to Piper as a lead character. Now, what season 4 and 5 did well, and why I would certainly recommend picking the show back up if you fell off at season 3 thinking, oh, what is going on? Season 4 and 5 is very much an ensemble cast. There's no lead character. There's no lead character in season 4 and 5 of Orange is the New Black, and that is to the show's benefit. It really is, because there is that many characters that you constantly want to know what everybody else is doing, and spending too much time with one character, you're thinking to yourself, well, what's everybody else doing? Because there is that many compelling characters in the show, and I think the messages within the show have gotten a lot stronger in these last 2 seasons. Season 4, I'll maybe go into a bit of spoiler territory here. So if you haven't watched season 4 of Orange is the New Black and maybe want to, just tread lightly. I'm not gonna outright say anything, but Season 4 was a season all about sort of, it was police brutality, and a lot of that sort of stuff was going on in the US at the time, or so it seemed. You know, this is only a couple of years ago. There was a lot of the police brutality going on, and Orange is the New Black, to its credit, explored those themes within the show, and it saw the end of one of everybody's favourite characters, and that was a massive loss. That was a quite an emotional, a very, very emotional episode. I can't quite remember which number episode it was in season 4. It might have been the second to last. Actually, thinking about it, probably was the second to last. But yeah, that was a huge moment. That was a huge moment. See, and this season 5 is very much focusing on the sort of inadequacy of the prison system, and because of course Orange is the New Black is set in a women's prison. You know, that's the sort of inadequacy of the prison system has been a theme running through all 5 seasons of the show, but in this particular season 5, it really sort of shines, I think. And well, okay, let's one minor spoiler here. Season 4 ends in a prison riot, or the start of a prison riot, and we are left at the end of season 4 on a cliffhanger, and that cliffhanger picks straight. It's you know, straight away it's picked up right at the start of episode 1 of season 5, and this season 5 is entirely this prison riot. For 13 episodes, it's the developments of the riot within this prison. And I was thinking before, like, well, during watching it, really, I was thinking they can't. You know, it's gonna be tough for them to drag this riot out for 13 hours, essentially, because the episodes are like, you know, 55 minutes long or something, or averaging 55 minutes long. But they did, and it didn't feel like it dragged at all. And because there is so much going on, and because you have grown to love, you know, or at least be compelled by a lot of the characters, and there is such a vast amount of characters. I mean, everybody has favourite characters in Orange is the New Black for various reasons, of which we'll get into in a bit. But yeah, I think this season 5, was a very, very strong season, and I'm glad that the show has picked up on what season 3 was doing wrong, because it has now made Piper just one of the ensemble, which is better. We don't have to put up with too much of her, and we can happily go on to, you know, Tasty and Cindy and Janae Watson and everybody, you know, because there's different gangs within the prison. Of course, there's the black gang and the Latina gang and the Nazi gang, and also the two meth heads, Leanne and, oh, what is her name? Angie. Leanne and Angie, who are essentially the complete comedic relief of the show, and they are funny, to be honest to them. They have a pretty nice arc, pretty good arc in this season 5, to be fair. And I think what made this season so entertaining as well was the fact that obviously it was this riot, so there was absolutely no guards, or the guards were hostages, really. So it honestly let everybody in the prison just do what they wanted. Obviously, this riot was in the wake of the events that happened at the end of season 4. Again, I'm not going to outright spoil anything. But yes, they were in the wake of that. So I'll say this as well. Danielle Brooks, who plays Tasty Jefferson, is by far the best thing in this show. I don't know why she's not getting all the roles everywhere, because she's wonderful, and she has been the best thing. She's been the best thing in the last 2 series, absolutely, and a strong part in the previous 3. Season 2 as well was pretty decent. For I think they're playing to her strengths. They're putting her in a more sort of integral position in the narrative of the show, and again, that is to the show's credit, because she is fantastic. You feel every single emotion she's going through, and she's the one sort of. She's always been sort of the one to, the character of Tasty. That's Tasty with a Y and a double E at the end, just in case anyone was wondering. TAYST double E, which, spell it however you want to. She has always sort of been the negotiator. She's always been one of the inmates that you could see when they get out would do something for herself, which is good. And certainly in this, in season 5, she is the one negotiating terms, during the riot. She's not necessarily involved with the riot. She just wants change and what's best for the prison and her, and her gang. Well, you conjure up the word gang, you think of violence, but they're not violent people. With Cindy, who is brilliant as well. She's hilarious. Adrian Moore plays Cindy, as well as Janae Watson, Vicky Judy. That's the actress, and a number of other people. You've got, of course, Suzanne Crazy Eyes Warren, Uzo Aduba, who was a standout in the sort of first couple of series. Absolutely, she has now become again part of the ensemble, which I personally love the fact that the show has become, lead characterless. I think it really works. It might not work for some people, and I can completely understand that. Let me, by all means, let me know what you think of Orange Is the New Black, where it's gone, what it's been doing, if you have been keeping up with it. There's a comment section, at least on YouTube. There's a comment section for a reason. Let me know these things, whatever you think, because I'm just telling you my personal thoughts on it. We're all allowed different thoughts, and that's the beauty of doing this weird stuff. But yes, sometimes I like to go off on tangents, so I'm just going to have another sip of tea and figure out what I was going to say. I know I was talking about Danielle Brooks because she's great. I have not got enough time in this recording right now because I don't want to go horrifically long to talk about every single character, because there are so many characters that are all, this is a huge credit to the writing, especially the lead writer and creator, Genji Cohen. Huge credit to her, because she has created, and of course I know the show is based on, a real prison experience by Piper Kerman, who I think she wrote a book about her experience in a women's prison, of which the show is based off. But, you know, it is a fictional show for all intents and purposes. It is a fictional show. But there are so many wonderful characters that have been created. And the fact that there is so much depth to this many characters, and like I said, it's a good 25, you know, a good 25 characters, strong characters, and side characters, you know, with that as well. But what the show's always done well is give you the backstories of certain characters in certain episodes. You know, it'll spotlight a certain character in one episode, and it'll go, oh yeah, now we get to learn about her, and now we get to learn why she's there, and how, you know, her life prior to being in prison. And they're always good. They're always really compelling. They're oftentimes emotional. You know, obviously it's more interesting depending on who the character is. I think one of my favourite sort of backstories of a character was Pusey's, about, I think she was the daughter of a pretty high-ranking military man and I think they were in Germany, and she got into a relationship with a German girl and didn't go so well. If I'm remembering that right, but I do. I'm a big fan of that character. And her backstory is, I remember that one, and there is, you know, there's so many. There are so many. I mean, in this series, you get backstories to Red, who is Kate Mulgrew. You get backstories to Red of how she planned to escape Russia and go over to America. You also get a bit more backstory of Tasty herself, which is always good. She probably has one of the strongest. I really do think she's one of the strongest of the wildly diverse and extensive cast of characters. You get a bit more backstory on her, and you get a bit of backstory on Frida as well, who is the sort of tough southern, looks like a biker girl, quite old, one of the older ones, but you get a bit of backstory on her, and she's a good character in this series. She's a pretty fun character, and that is a good thing about the show as well, is that it is entertaining, it is enjoyable, and it is quite often fun to watch, which is, you know, refreshing for a prison. You know, I thought that from the start. It was refreshing for a prison show to be as fun as it is, which then in turn makes the more sort of hard-hitting emotional storylines that you find in it that much more impactful. And I will not tell you the ending of season 5. I'm not even going to suggest what the ending of season 5 is, because it is only as of this recording. I am recording this on the day of release of this episode. The season has only been out for 2 days, and unless you're like me and insane and decide to binge it all very, very quickly, you won't have watched it all yet. So I don't know about that. But, yeah, the fact that it is a fun show, an enjoyable show with plenty of humorous moments, plenty of funny characters, makes the hard-hitting emotional stuff, like what happened at the end of season 4, that much more impactful. What happened at the end of season 4 was perhaps the most impactful moment in the show, and it really, made me realise when watching that Orange is the New Black had gotten back to its, it had changed from the beginning. Like I said, it had become lead characterless, which is to its benefit, at least I think that. And, it realised what it wanted to be, I think. And that is a good thing, because it followed that up in season 5. And these last 2 seasons have been very, very strong, in my opinion. What else is there to say? I mean, there's so much to say. But because I don't want to talk about every single character, I'm trying to go over in my head who to talk about. I'll tell you what I will talk about, actually, is Flaka and Maritza, who, alternatively known as Flaritza, who are the 2 Latino girls. I think one's Mexican, one's Dominican. I hope I've got that right. No, one's Colombian. Which is, I don't know which one of them is Mexican, which one of the that sounds awful, doesn't it? That's just me not being able to remember the backstories properly now. But those 2 are wonderful. Because, and I'll say this, because this season is, entirely takes place in a riot, the prisoners find cell phones. So Flaka and Maritza decide to create a YouTube channel where they do makeup vlogs, and it's wonderful. It's genius. Because they are. There's a reason a lot of people like them. I think it is because they are just really sort of. They're quite silly. They're very vain. They're always on about how they look, and they're just sort of. I don't know how to word it. No, when I say vain, I don't mean that in a bad way either. But they always, they're very. They love how they look. They are. I'll say this. Let me put it in more sort of simpler ways that aren't gonna offend anybody, because I don't want to offend anybody. I'm just trying to think of a way to say this. Think of a makeup vlogger. They are exactly like that. Both of them. They are exactly like that. And the fact that they actually become makeup vloggers for the sort of 4 days that the season takes place in, by the end of the season they have legitimate fans that have actually come to the prison, because there's big crowds outside, watching the riot, big crowds outside the prison watching the riot sort of unfold and all the things that are going on. They have Flaritza, as they call Flaka and Maritza, they have legitimate fans with banners stood outside, and it's wonderful. They're getting so many horrible comments as well, such objectifying comments, but they love it for some reason, and they're so into it, and it's wonderful. I don't know. I think that was quite a silly sort of little side storyline that was going on, but I really like watching that, because it was just funny. It was endearing, and those 2 are definitely some of my favourite characters. 2 of my favourite characters. That is Jackie Cruz and Diane Guerrero, who are the actors for Flaka and Maritza. staying Latino, I'll talk about Gloria as well. Gloria Mendoza, Selena Slava is the actor. She's always been a pretty, like I said, it is an ensemble cast. It's a huge ensemble cast, but she has always been a pretty major player throughout all the seasons, or at least the last few. Her arc in this season, contrary to most, because ultimately is, or it seems like ultimately is a sort of lot of positive arcs in season 5. Again, I'm trying to tread around the ending, the final episode, of which I haven't, and I'm not going to spoil. But Gloria's arc is pretty dark. It's pretty dark. In this season, and she's got a lot. She's got a few decisions to make. She's got a few big moral decisions to make, and it plays to. It really shows Selena Slava off as an actor, and she's great as well. I've always thought she was one of the better ones, and that is why I think she's one. She has been put as one of the sort of major players of the whole ensemble. It's because she is one of the stronger actors. I don't know why, unless we do, and I'm just not watching the right things. I don't know why we don't see the likes of Selena Slava and Danielle Brooks, and even the girl who plays Nikki. She was in American Pie. Oh, what's her name? I've completely forgot her name. The one that was in American Pie, the best friend of Tara Reid in American Pie, who plays Nikki. She's. I don't know why we don't see her in more stuff either, because she's great, and she's always great in the show. And that's another thing I think season 3 lacked, was Nikki. Because Nikki was barely in season 3, due to reasons, due to narrative reasons, but Nikki was barely in season 3, which is another reason why season 3 didn't work. But she's great as well. I mean, all in all, I don't want to ramble for too long. All in all, Orange is the New Black is a great show. It's a fun show to watch. It's a great show to binge. A really great show to binge. And this season 5, as I will call it, the riot season, is very, very fun. Particularly because it is the middle of a riot, and all the prisoners essentially get to do what they want because they've kept the guards hostage. But in typical Orange is the New Black fashion, there are a lot of storylines going on. Not complex storylines. Don't get me. This isn't Game of Thrones. You don't have to necessarily pay attention to everything to know what's going on. But there's storylines with each major sort of character, or at least group of characters, that you're just invested in completely, because over the course of 5 seasons you've come to know these characters well, and been on the journey with them. And even some of the newer ones you sort of becoming attached to, and that's that is what the show tends to do well. Like I said, there was a couple of characters in season 3 that just didn't work, and they got rid of as quickly as they came, rightly so. But even some of the newer ones, the group of Nazis, the group of Nazi skinheads, for some reason are very, very interesting to watch. Like, I know that sounds very, very bad. I'm not saying they're pleasant people. They're incredibly unpleasant characters. But they are enjoyable characters to watch, if that makes any sense. Yeah, I don't know. My final verdict is, if you did fall off after season 3, or in the middle of season 3, like a lot of people seem to, because it is the weakest season, pick it back up. Watch season 4 and 5, because they are a good step up. They are a good step up. And, the show has changed. The show has changed over the course of 5 seasons. But I strongly believe it has changed for the better. And speaking of the, what comes next for Orange is the New Black, I have no idea whether there'll be a 6th season or not. If there is, now I am treading lightly in terms of spoilers. If there is a 6th season, I have no idea how they're going to pull that off. If there isn't a 6th season, it will have... The entire show will have finished interestingly. And I know that is an incredibly annoying word to use, but because I'm not giving anything away, I'm going to use the word interestingly. And if there isn't a 6th season, the show would have finished in a way that I did not think it was going to finish. But I said hopefully there is a 6th season, because I just love to see more of these characters. I would just love to see more of these characters, but with what happens at the end of this season, I have no idea where they're possibly going to go, really. Which is weird. But yes, anyway, as my tea has now gone cold, we will begin to wrap up this, again, more casual episode of the Enlightenment Hour. Yep, that tea is cold and nasty, and let's not have any more of that. But yes, there we have it, guys. Episode 4 of the Enlightenment Hour. All Orange is the New Black. A great show that had a low point in its middle that you should pick up again if you fell off. And yes, that will do it for this. You can, of course, check me out on Twitter, as always, at the PurpleDon, or on Instagram at the PurpleDon as well. I don't know why I never plug that, because I'm on there as well. If you are watching, you don't watch audio only things. If you are listening to this show on YouTube, please share it around if you did enjoy it, and leave that like, leave those comments. Like I said before, what do you think of Orange is the New Black? Have you fallen off Orange is the New Black? If you have watched season 5, what did you think of season 5? What do you think of the series as a whole? Who's your favourite character? Do you love Floritza as much as I do? Probably not, because I love them a lot. Yeah. What else is there? If you are on iTunes or anything like that, leave a rate and review if you are feeling generous. Let's get a couple of those coming, and subscribe to this feed for a lot more Enlightenment Hour episodes. And like I said, there is you don't have to wait 2 weeks for the next Enlightenment Hour. There is going to be one next Sunday in honour of Father's Day in the UK. Like I said, it's pretty obvious who my guest is going to be, I think. But yes, there will also be a HorrorHouse episode next weekend as well. A lot of stuff upcoming for then, and big guest on HorrorHouse. Like I said, big guest on HorrorHouse, and we've got a couple of nice episodes of HorrorHouse coming up that are planned in the very near future. So yeah, that is it. Like I said, if you did like this episode, please share it around. I hope you did like it, because I always love recording them. So yes, there we have it. As I again try and wrap these things up, which I'm always horrible at doing. Thank you again for listening, everyone, and until next time, fare thee well.